What the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. But what if I told you that's only possible when you learn to control your emotions? Sounds absurd, doesn't it? You might have talent, you might have opportunities, you might even be lucky. But if you don't master your emotions, all of it slips through your fingers like sand. Have you ever wondered why you make decisions you later regret? Why you say things you shouldn't, buy things you don't need, or give up just when you're about to win? The answer lies in an invisible enemy, a lack of emotional control. How many times have you found yourself overwhelmed by an emotion that seemed impossible to control? The sudden surge of anger, the fear that paralyzes, the sadness that consumes you, or the anxiety that makes your heart race. These moments aren't rare, they're human. But that's precisely where most people get lost. The emotion arrives, dominates, and what was just an instant transforms into a hasty decision, a hurtful word, a regret that could have been avoided. Napoleon Hill used to say that the true master isn't someone who doesn't feel, but someone who feels deeply and yet remains in control of themselves. Think about how many times you've let impulse decide for you. Argued with someone over something trivial, spent what you couldn't afford to alleviate discomfort, gave up on a project because fear spoke louder. These automatic reactions are the reflection of a mind that has lost command to its own emotions. Hill asserted that a lack of emotional control is the root of most personal, financial, and relational failures. And he didn't just say this as a theorist, but as someone who lived that truth. There was a time when he almost gave up everything. Without money, without support, discredited. In that dark night, despair could have won. But Hill did something simple, almost insignificant. He stopped. He breathed. He quieted his mind for 1 minute and decided he wouldn't be a slave to his own fear. That 1 minute changed everything. Today, neuroscience proves what he intuited more than 1 century ago. When you pause, breathe, and observe your emotions, your brain activates the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic and self-control, and disengages the automatic mode of the limbic system, where primitive emotional reactions reside. This transition can happen in just 60 seconds. 1 minute of pause is enough to interrupt a cycle of impulsivity that, unchecked, could destroy days, relationships, and even opportunities. Imagine a simple example. Someone offends you at work. The first reaction is to retaliate, defend yourself, attack. But if you stop for 60 seconds and breathe deeply, your body slows down, your heart rate returns to normal, and your brain starts functioning with clarity again. Instead of reacting with anger, you respond with intelligence. This difference between reacting and responding is the dividing line between those who live at the mercy of circumstances and those who create their own destiny. Studies show that 76% of people feel stress and frustration mainly due to financial issues. Money isn't the problem, it's what it represents emotionally. Fear of lack, feelings of incompetence, comparison with others. Hill used to say that emotional poverty precedes material poverty. And he was right. The one who buys on impulse to fill a void, who argues out of pride, who becomes paralyzed by fear of making mistakes, is being driven by emotions, not by reason. Emotional control, therefore, isn't a luxury, it's the foundation of prosperity. Remember Mike Tyson, one of the greatest boxers in history. Strength, talent, speed, he had it all. But he lost titles, contracts, and reputation because he didn't master his emotions. Every outburst of rage cost him years of glory. Talent took him to the top, but a lack of self-control brought him down. Hill would say that Tyson lost the most important fight, the one we wage within ourselves. Now imagine the opposite. You start applying the 1 minute method. Situation after situation, emotion after emotion. Someone provokes you, you breathe. A fear appears, you observe. A desire to give up arises, you wait. Gradually, control shifts. It ceases to be in the circumstances and returns to your hands. And the most interesting thing is that this doesn't make you cold or indifferent. On the contrary, you feel more, but react less. You begin to perceive emotions as information, not as commands. Take the test. Over the next 7 days, whenever an intense emotion appears, stop for 1 minute. Don't run from what you feel. Just observe. Inhale deeply. Count to 4. hold your breath, and exhale slowly. In that interval, tell yourself, I am the master of my mind. I choose how to react. This practice, when repeated, reconfigures the brain. It's like strengthening an invisible muscle, the muscle of self-control. At first, it might seem too simple to be effective, but the true power lies precisely in its simplicity. Hill used to say that the mind is like a garden. What you feed flourishes, what you ignore dies. Each time you decide not to feed a destructive emotion, you are cultivating serenity, focus, and clarity. It is this conscious choice made minute by minute that distinguishes those who merely survive from those who truly prosper. And it all begins with a small gesture, 1 minute of silence in the midst of chaos. 1 minute to remember that you are the author of your story, not a character lost in emotions. Have you ever noticed how a lack of clarity is one of the biggest causes of emotional suffering? It's like trying to navigate an ocean without a compass. Any wave throws you off balance. Any current carries you far away. A mind without direction is fertile ground for doubt, and doubt is the greatest energy thief there is. Napoleon Hill used to say that a definite chief aim is the remedy for emotional indecision, and he was right. The absence of a clear purpose allows emotion, not reason, to take control. That's why so many people start something with enthusiasm and days later lose momentum, change their minds, or get discouraged. It's not a lack of ability, it's a lack of focus. Hill learned this early, when Andrew Carnegie challenged him to study the most successful men in the United States. He received no money, no security. He was a young man without stability, tasked with interviewing figures like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and Alexander Graham Bell. Anyone else would have given up, but Hill accepted the challenge for a simple reason. He had clarity of purpose. He knew exactly what he wanted to build, a method that would teach ordinary people to transform their thoughts into wealth. This clarity became his fuel during the years when no one believed in him. While others were guided by circumstances, Hill was guided by a purpose. Modern science confirms what he preached. Research from Harvard Business School has shown that people who write down their goals in detail are 10 times more likely to achieve them than those who merely think about them. This happens because when writing, the brain activates areas linked to motivation and emotional commitment. The goal ceases to be a loose idea and becomes a mental direction. And when the mind has a direction, emotions align. It's as if suddenly anxiety finds a function, fear gains a purpose, and doubt loses its power. Now, think about your own life. How many times have you started something with excitement, a project, a course, a change, and then, faced with the first difficulty, your enthusiasm vanished? It's likely that, at that moment, you didn't have a strong enough why to sustain the how. Hill used to say that true power is born when the why is greater than any obstacle. Therefore, the exercise is simple, yet transformative. Take a piece of paper and write down what you truly want. Not, I want to be happy or I want to earn more money. That's too vague. Write in detail how much money, in what way, in what time frame, and what you will do with it. Also describe how you will feel when you achieve it. This practice does something extraordinary. It connects emotion and direction, and when emotion and direction unite, the energy that was once scattered begins to concentrate. Clarity is magnetic. It attracts people, ideas, and opportunities that vibrate at the same frequency. That's why Hill asserted that success is not a matter of luck, but of alignment. You only attract what is in harmony with what you feel and believe. Thomas Edison is a living example of this. He failed more than 10,000 times before creating a functional light bulb. Any ordinary person would have given up, but Edison had such a clear goal that frustration didn't shake him. When asked if he felt like a failure, he replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This response isn't arrogance, it's emotional clarity. Edison knew what he wanted, and because of that, each mistake only brought him closer to success. When you define your destiny, even negative emotions become allies. Frustration shows you where you need to adjust your path. Fear warns you that you are growing, and anxiety reminds you that you are about to step out of your comfort zone. Hill used to say that emotions are like wild horses. If you don't guide them, they'll throw you. But if you learn to ride them, they'll take you farther than you ever imagined. So, before seeking motivation, seek clarity. Motivation is unstable, but clarity is constant. It sustains you when energy drops, when criticism comes, when weariness weighs heavily. Therefore, set aside just 5 minutes today to ask yourself, what do I really want? Why? What does this mean to me? Write it down, feel it, and visualize it. See yourself there living that result. The mind needs an image, the heart needs a purpose. When both align, emotions cease to be storms and become winds that push your life in the right direction. That is the power of a clear goal. It silences the internal noise, organizes thoughts, and transforms chaos into direction. Life ceases to be a series of reactions and becomes a conscious creation. And as Hill proved with his own story, when you know exactly where you're going, even the impossible begins to bend to your favor. Pain is inevitable, but how we react to it defines who we become. Some people break when faced with difficulty. Others, facing the same pain, blossom. The difference isn't in what happens, but in the meaning they assign to it. Napoleon Hill called this emotional resilience, the ability to feel everything without getting lost in anything. He used to say that failure is merely an opportunity to begin again, more intelligently, and his own life was proof of this. Hill faced periods of complete ruin. He ran out of money, was discredited, and feared he wouldn't be able to support his family. Any ordinary person would have given up. But it was precisely in those moments that he put into practice what he taught most, extracting power from adversity. Instead of letting himself be defeated, he paused, reflected, and sought what that pain was trying to teach him. And from this attitude came one of the most powerful phrases from Think and Grow Rich. Within every difficulty lies the seed of an equivalent benefit. This isn't a poetic metaphor, it's a mental law. It's the capacity to transform pain into purpose. Walt Disney is a living example of this law. He was fired from a newspaper for lack of creativity, had several projects rejected, went bankrupt more than once and heard countless no's. But instead of allowing frustration to define him, he used it as fuel. Each refusal fueled his conviction that something great would emerge from it. And it did. He created an empire that inspires billions of people to this day. When asked about his failures, he replied, "All the problems and obstacles I faced strengthened me." This is the essence of emotional resilience, understanding that pain comes not to destroy, but to refine. Science confirms what Hill and Disney experienced. Research from the University of North Carolina shows that emotionally resilient people are happier, more productive, and maintain more stable relationships. This is because they have learned to process pain with awareness. They don't deny suffering, but they don't identify with it either. They pass through it, and in passing through, they grow. Think of how many times you've asked yourself, "Why is this happening to me?" That is the question that paralyzes. It casts you in the role of a victim. But if instead you ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" something shifts within you. This new question transforms pain into a tool. The first imprisons, the second liberates. This is exactly what Hill did when all seemed lost. He traded self-pity for purpose, and it was there at rock bottom that he wrote some of the most profound teachings of his entire body of work. Emotional resilience isn't a gift, it's a cultivated skill. Like a muscle, it strengthens every time you choose to confront rather than flee. Every time you allow yourself to feel without being consumed by what you feel. When you are betrayed, fired, criticized, rejected, everything in you screams to give up. But if you take a deep breath, observe what the situation reveals, and decide to act consciously, a new part of you is born. It is this birth that differentiates those who merely survive from those who are reborn. The truth is, life spares no one. Sooner or later, we will all be tested. And when the test comes, remember Hill's words, "Temporary defeat is merely a step toward victory." He didn't speak as a distant philosopher, but as someone who lived what he preached. And, curiously, it was precisely after his greatest failures that he wrote his greatest successes. Today, psychology calls this post-traumatic growth, the ability to emerge from a crisis wiser, more compassionate, and stronger. And there's a pattern among all who achieve this state. None of them run from the pain. They face it, understand it, and choose the meaning they will assign to it. This is what makes them unbreakable. Perhaps you are going through something difficult right now. A loss, a disappointment, a phase where everything seems to be collapsing. And perhaps you ask yourself, how can I keep going? The answer isn't to fight against the pain, but to engage in dialogue with it. Ask yourself, what is this showing me about myself? This simple question can completely shift your energy, because when you give pain a new meaning, it stops controlling you. Hill stated that adversity carries within it the seed of a greater benefit. And this seed only germinates when you decide to nurture it. So the next time something goes wrong, breathe. Don't react impulsively. Observe. Within the chaos, there is always a hidden lesson. And it is this lesson that transforms you into someone stronger, more aware, and better prepared for the next level. Emotional resilience is the art of falling and rising better than before. It's the power to look at pain and say, you will not define me, you will refine me. It's the point where you cease to be the result of what happened to you and become the result of what you chose to do with it. And it is there, exactly at that instant, that you begin to master the most powerful force of all. Not merely to survive, but to grow with everything life throws your way. Napoleon Hill asserted that without emotional discipline, practical discipline cannot exist. And this is one of the hardest and most liberating truths you can grasp. Most people believe they fail due to a lack of time, knowledge, or opportunity. But in reality, what destroys them is the inability to control what they feel at the moment they most need clarity. Because the problem is never the event, it's the reaction. How many times have you known exactly what you should do, but emotion led you to choose the opposite? You knew you needed to save money, but you gave in to impulse. You knew you should remain calm, but you reacted with anger. You knew you should start the project, but fear paralyzed you. That's when life is decided. In the instant you choose to be guided by what you feel or by what you know. Hill believed that emotion is not an enemy, but it needs to be put in its proper place. It is a messenger, not a dictator. The problem is that most people live as hostages to fleeting feelings and don't realize that each time they react on impulse, they surrender control of their own lives to something that lasts a few minutes. That's why so many people live in repetitive cycles. They start excited, give up frustrated, and restart full of guilt. They think they lack willpower, when in fact, they lack emotional awareness. Benjamin Franklin, centuries before Hill, had already discovered this on his own. He created a system of 13 virtues to cultivate daily and recorded every lapse in his diary. But the most powerful detail was what few notice. Franklin didn't just record what he did wrong, he wrote down what he felt before he erred. He understood that every behavior originates from an emotion. Financial mismanagement stems from anxiety. Procrastination comes from fear. Excess comes from a sense of lack. And when you name the emotion, it loses its power to control you. Modern neuroscience proves this. Studies by the American Psychological Association show that 40% of daily behaviors are automatic and guided by emotional states. In other words, almost half of what you do isn't a conscious choice. It's an emotional reaction disguised as a decision. And the worst part is that this happens to the most intelligent, the most capable, the most prepared. Because the human brain is programmed to avoid pain and seek pleasure, and emotion is the quickest shortcut to that. That's why you eat what you shouldn't, buy what you don't need, postpone what matters, and argue when you should listen. Not because you want to, but because you feel. And without understanding this, you try to change behavior, but behavior is just the tip of the iceberg. What needs to be reprogrammed is deeper. It's how you deal with what you feel. Hill said that emotional self-control is the bridge between thought and action. It is what transforms knowledge into results. It's easy to act when you're inspired, motivated, and well-rested. But true strength lies in acting when you're tired, frustrated, or afraid. That's where champions are made. Consider the greatest examples of discipline the world has ever seen. Athletes, entrepreneurs, scientists. They are not driven by constant motivation, but rather by an internal pact not to let emotions decide for them. So, start small. Choose an area of your life where emotions frequently dominate you. It could be the urge to spend, procrastination, the fear of making mistakes, or the habit of reacting with irritation. Observe what you feel before acting. Name the emotion. Breathe. And then consciously decide what you will do. This small pause, repeated over and over, reprograms the brain. Each time you act with awareness, you strengthen the circuit of emotional discipline, and with time it becomes natural. You don't need to be cold, you need to be firm. You don't need to stop feeling. You need to learn not to be led by what you feel. Hill said that success is built on small acts of self-control repeated every single day. And that's precisely it. Success isn't what you do occasionally when everything is favorable. It's what you keep doing even when everything seems to go against you. The most successful people Hill studied were not the most intelligent or the luckiest. They were those who learned to keep going even when their hearts screamed to stop. Because true mastery of life isn't about the external world, it's about the internal world. It's when you discover that you can feel fear and still act, that you can be tired and still continue, that one can be sad and still choose what is good. And this is the most powerful point. Emotional mastery doesn't distance you from your humanity, it gives you back control over it. It enables you to use every emotion as fuel rather than as a chain. When fear appears, you understand it's a call for preparation. When anger arises, you transform it into focus. When anxiety tightens its grip, you use it as a reminder to act. Everything takes on new meaning. Ultimately, this is what Hill aimed to teach, that the mind should command the heart, and the heart should inspire the mind, never the other way around. The balance between reason and emotion is the fertile ground upon which every great achievement is built. And if you can maintain your composure when everything around you seems chaotic, if you can act with purpose when impulse pushes you toward error, then you won't just change your outcomes, you will change your destiny. Because in the end, true success isn't about conquering the world, it's about conquering yourself. You now realize that everything we seek, control, clarity, strength, and discipline, has a common origin: the way we handle our emotions. This is what determines whether we react or create, whether we repeat the past or build a new future. The most crucial insight from everything you've heard here is simple yet profound. You don't need to eliminate your emotions, only to learn how to use them to your advantage. Once you master this, nothing outside of you will hold more power than what transpires within you. And this is just the beginning. In the next video appearing on your screen, you will ascend another step in your personal evolution and discover how to transform this newfound emotional control into tangible results in your mind, your life, and your achievements. Continue this journey. Become 1% better than you are now and see what happens when you decide to take total command of your energy. Thank you for being here with me today. It has been an honor to share this part of the journey with you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.